Everything that you see that's green out here is actually wild onion. You notice here, it's pretty easy to tell. You pick a limb and it has a faint smell of onion. So what's kind of interesting about this is when I was, I don't know, in my late teens, what set me on my expedition to try to figure out about herbs and medicines was actually brought on by onion. And it was thinking about what would happen if I was stuck out in the woods and I had something like, I don't know, like athlete's foot. Sounds kind of funny, but it can probably affect you pretty bad. And then I researched it and I found out with these things that they used to make back in the day, which were called books. So I got this book, you know, and I don't even know if you can get these anymore, but I got this Peterson's Field Guide, which is kind of cool. Shout out to Peterson. And then I found out that onions actually are antifungal. So if you, they're not as antifungal as if like you get a creamer or something at the store. So you'd have to apply it like multiple times a day, probably 4 times a day, but they're still antifungal. So talking about wild onions, that's kind of cool. This whole field is wild onions. So it's antifungal. On top of that, it also is considered by different tribes as a dewormer. And if you're anything like me, I like my worms on a hook so I can catch a fish with it. I don't want them in my body. So I've never had to take a dewormer naturally like this. But if I did have to, I would trust that the Native Americans that used to use it are probably onto something. So I kind of like that. And Vikings probably could have had this information a long time ago too, because they were like apparently filled with parasites and worms. And I like to read stuff. And if you look into it, I don't know which anthropologist or archaeologist, bless their heart, took the time to go through ancient poop, but I'm happy for it. And I'm not even, it sounds funny, and it is funny, but I am happy for it. So, you know, now we know a little bit about history, and now we know what we can take to make our food taste a little better, cure our feet, and, you know, if we have to, get rid of pinworms.